Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Uncommon Commentators. I'm Antoine Willis Jr., and this is the boy Garrett. As you all know, this is our show where we talk about basketball, all levels from high school, collegiate, WNBA, and professional NBA, of course. And tonight we got some good topics for you, as always. Really excited to talk about these that we're going to, but of course, can't do it without my main man who I just introduced. How you doing, Garrett? It's Thursday night, as always, when we record this show. So the week's almost over. You got one more day, for me at least, before I'm off on Saturday. But how's your week been so far, man? You been okay?
Yeah, man. Everything is good. Life is good, so can't complain.
Always, man. Yeah, for me and you both, of course. Yeah, like I said, always blessed to do this show. Want to give a shout out to Jay Holloway who's stepping in for Wiley on the ones and twos. We wish you well, Wiley, out on the road. I think he's in the car right now. So God bless you, brother. You said you'd be listening. Always love doing the show with you as well, Wiley. And we just hope you travel safe on your vacation or wherever you're going.
Yep.
And yeah, like I said, we have a great show today. Um, we could go ahead and start off with the first topic that we were going to. So, obviously, as you all know, the future Hall of Famer Damian Lillard is now out indefinitely with a blood clot in his calf. Obviously, the superstar point guard of the Milwaukee Bucks was having a great season at 34 years old. He was averaging like 25 points and 7 assists per game. While having shooting pretty good from the field this year as well. His second year in Milwaukee, after that big whole Portland thing when he finally left after leading the Trailblazers for 11 years and not having much success after getting drafted by them in the 2013 draft. So it was pretty devastating for the Bucks to take this injury at this point in the season as the playoffs do approach. We know that Giannis himself is listed as questionable for their Friday night game. It's due to like a foot injury of some sort, maybe really like minor foot load management more so than an injury. And of course, that happens a lot when you're Giannis's size and when you have his athleticism, when you're driving to the rim as much as he does. But I wanted to really talk about the main man on the sideline, Doc Rivers. So we know that he did replace Adrian Griffin when they had a 35-13 record in the middle of, I believe it was last year when he came over. He replaced him in the All-Star game and everything as the 2024 NBA All-Star game head coach. Of course, they didn't have too much playoff success last season, but a lot of people were cutting Doc some slack, seeing how he came in the middle of a season and he didn't really get the chance to really implement his game plan and like his culture into the Bucks. And now, having done so, they find themselves at 40-32. As we record this on March 27th. So my question was to you. Obviously, we know his history with Doc Rivers. He was fired from the Philadelphia 76ers after spending 3 years with the franchise. He went 20-15 in the playoffs. And I actually wanted to go down his history of playoff record. Just to show that he has had a little bit of success, but majority he has lost for the most part. He had a 5-10 playoff record when leading the Orlando Magic. Of course, he did win Coach of the Year in the year 2000 when he first took over the franchise, and they actually made the playoffs the next 3 seasons. That was the whole Tracy McGrady era down in Orlando. But like I said, they had a 5-10 playoff record after being there for 5 years. He went to Boston shortly after that, where he was there for 9 years, 2004 to 2013, where he had a 59-47 playoff record. Of course, we saw him claim the 2008 NBA title, and he also won. I feel like people forget this. They were the Eastern Conference champions back in 2010, where they lost to the Los Angeles Lakers when Kobe and Pau Gasol took the Lakers back to back. After 7 years in the Clippers, of course, the Lob City with Blake Griffin and Chris Paul. He was 27-32 in the playoffs. Obviously, everyone knows he never made it past the second round with that team. That's the whole thing about the whole Lob City Clippers, of course. A team not stacked on paper. Unfortunately, he's never made it past the second round, even with two superstars with Blake Griffin and Chris Paul. And also, a good DeAndre Jordan, a prime JJ Redick. They were one of my favorite teams personally. We never saw them find much playoff success, of course, facing those like OKC teams back then, and like those Memphis Grizzly teams. And like I just mentioned, he spent 3 years in Philly, where he actually was 20-15 in the playoffs. But of course, like I mentioned, he never made it past the second round, even with the 2023 MVP on his team. He wasn't able to do it. So after laying out his track record and the foundation for Rivers, what do you think happens this playoff if he isn't able to make it that far? We know how NBA front offices have had short leashes on coaches lately, especially with Doc Rivers knowing his track record. He's a good regular season coach. Like I said, he did win Coach of the Year, and like that was like his first year in Orlando. So he's always shown good potential to be a good coach, in my opinion. And of course, he is a champion. So when he does have the superstar talent, he can get it done. But recently in the playoffs, he's failed to make adjustments game by game, whether blowing like 4-1 leads, 4-2 leads, like whatever the case may be. If he's given multiple opportunities to win a game, he will fold. Multiple players that have played for him have said so as well. So what do you think happens with the Bucks in this playoffs, knowing the psychological effect that, of course, he knows he's a good coach. He knows he's a champion. He's even listed on the top 15 coaches in NBA history, like the actual list of Hall of Fame coaches. So what do you think happens with Doc Rivers this playoffs? And do you think if he were to get fired, would this be his last team he'd be a head coach of?
Well, right now they're currently sitting as the number 6 seed in the East with the
Mm-hmm.
40-32 record. Now to his quote on Damian Lillard with his blood clot in his right calf, he said, "Quote, I mean, he didn't die. We're hopeful that he's coming back." Now, we all know injuries are part of the game of basketball, and that's really goes for any sport. So that's out of the coach's control. But in regards to Doc Rivers, I mean, because you're anticipating that you're going to be without him for
Mm-hmm.
the rest of the season and possibly including the playoffs. So you're honestly thinking that okay, it's just going to be Giannis that you're going to have in the playoffs. Now, I will say that the Bucks, I don't think that they are in a position to really win at this moment because they have a lot of issues to really fix because
Mm-hmm.
they have not been in a winning environment ever since they won their championship a few years back in 2021. They've been an early exit team in the playoffs. They made the playoffs every year, but they never been able to get back to the Eastern Conference Finals or back to the finals since then. So there's a lot of issues going on with that. So, and even if Damian Lillard was still healthy, I don't think that they would be able to do that either. I don't think that they would make a deep run into the playoffs. That's just based on how they've been playing. Now, in regards to Doc Rivers, history has shown that he just has not been able to really lead a team to get the job done. We've seen him with the Clippers, we've seen him with the Sixers, we've seen him with Boston and other teams. Um, and that just has not really he hasn't really been able to find success with any teams. I mean, we can sit in and say like, hey, he's had good regular season wins for sure. We can say that he's had multiple regular season wins, but in the playoffs, that's where he comes up short. So it's just where, okay, after this season, then what is it you're going to do? Because like I said, a coach can't really control how a player performs when it comes to their health meaning. So I don't think that they will fire him this year after this season. So I think it's just more so okay, how can we make this team better? Because the elephant in the room is their best player in the Greek freak, meaning Giannis. Now, senior ESPN insider Sean Serenia late last month, on the show Get Up, he did report on Giannis's future with Milwaukee, and he quoted, he said, "Giannis loves the Bucks, but loves winning more." So that's really an indication that hey, even though that he loves Milwaukee, but he loves winning more, and that obviously does indicate that he's open to playing elsewhere to be in a winning environment. Now, I'm not saying that Giannis will be traded because I don't have like because I don't have any sources to confirm me, if that is the case for real. But I'm just saying that there's a possibility that he could force his way out and request a trade. So, but that's only if the Bucks are not able to really figure things out. So with that being said, I think that the Bucks they have a good foundation, but it's just more so okay, how can they really improve the team? We did see they went out and got Kyle Kuzma out of Washington at a trade deadline, but of course they're without one of their core pieces in Bobby Portis, and it looks like he'll be back for the postseason. It seems, but like I said, I just think with Milwaukee, they just have a lot of issues that are outside of Damian Lillard and Doc Rivers. So I think at this point, we can only expect Doc Rivers to do the best that he can with the roster. Now, depending on who their matchup is in the playoffs, that I guess you can determine whether or not if they're going to be a first round exit team or not. If the playoffs were to start today, they would face the New York Knicks. So if it was up to me, I think the Knicks would win that series to 6 or 7 games. But like I said, I just think that the issues that the Bucks have, I think it's just beyond Doc Rivers that he's not able to really control or fix. But but I think what's important for Milwaukee is to figure out how are they going to convince Giannis that hey, we're serious about winning and we want you to stay in a long term. So that's what their main focus should be, not just on Doc Rivers and what he's able to do.
For sure, and I agree 100%. Like as we look at it right now, Giannis is, according to Spotrac, it's an estimate for how much he'll make next year. It's gonna be around 54 million. The year after that, it'll be 58 million when he's 32 years old, and when he's 33, it'll be around 62 million. So obviously, at this situation, Giannis is still in his prime. He's still playing great right now, averaging like 30 points and 12 rebounds a game at 31 years old. He hasn't slowed down in the slightest, even with what I mentioned earlier. Some of the slight minor injuries he'll deal with here and there. I feel like that's just him not really more so because he's not a load management type of dude. I think he really just wants to prioritize certain moments, and he knows the playoffs is coming. So I think he just wants to take some time off here and there for certain games, certain matchups. And I do agree with everything that you said. I feel like for right now, for their future, they still should go all in on Giannis. He still is a generational talent that is their franchise player. And that was a pretty big statement you said there, that he loves winning more. Obviously, we saw them win the NBA championship in 2021, and they have lost some pieces. Chris Middleton was a massive part of that run. Obviously, he was with the team this season, but due to some injuries, he definitely wasn't the same player that he used to be, unfortunately. Obviously, he's finding some momentum over in Washington, being a good veteran for that young core right now. But I think with Milwaukee still in a win now situation with two superstars, I think right now they should just still focus on Giannis, really just try to get some pieces this offseason if they can't go that far. They have 55 million in cap space. And I will say this, like, depending how it goes next season, I think will really determine Doc Rivers' fate. They're going to see how he performs this season in the playoffs. Depending how it'll go in the first round, if he's just completely not competitive with the Knicks game after game, I think that adds credibility to what I said earlier about him not making adjustments game by game in the playoffs, where coaches really make most of their money, because that's where that's what most front offices really care about the most, is the postseason, of course. And we know that he's had a negative record in the past, unfortunately. And for me, I do agree again with what you said. I do think the Knicks would beat them. But it's more so about if they can get Damian back in time. How's he going to perform with that? I guess the whole thing is really just a one big what if right now. We really have to see how he performs in that moment. Given how he's looked in the past, most people do have him failing, unfortunately, even with the superstar talent that he does possess at the moment. But like I mentioned, he has won an NBA title in the past. Some coaches, of course, have never achieved that feat. Of course, he had to have four future Hall of Famers to achieve that. But with Milwaukee, he has a good core right now, offense and defense wise. So it really just falls on him to put them in the right position to really succeed at this moment. And I wish him nothing but the best, of course. I do think he is a future Hall of Fame coach, of course. Like I mentioned, he is one of the top 15 coaches in NBA history. And I should only want him to succeed. And I felt bad for him, of course, when he got fired in Philadelphia. I never like to see any man lose his job, of course. And like I said, he had a positive playoff record in Philly with 20-15. So obviously, we know how Joel Embiid can be, and we know that James Harden didn't even want to be in a Sixers uniform like that anymore. So we'll just see how it goes for Doc this playoffs, I guess. Did want to just address that because it's a red flag over there losing his superstar point guard, knowing that Giannis might not be able to carry the city of Wisconsin on his back in the playoffs like that. And if he gets a first round exit, knowing how the Bucks can be, seeing how they even fired Mike Budenholzer after he won them an NBA title not too long ago. So, and he also won Coach of the Year not too long, and they still let him go. So, we'll see how it goes for Doc. I wish him nothing but the best, of course, over in Wisconsin. Moving on to the next one, of course. This next topic is, of course, very subjective as the NBA season comes to a close. I think we're about 11 games left, something like that, 10 games left in the season. So, obviously, with this 2024 NBA draft class, not that many people were high on it. We're seeing the third pick in the draft, Reed Shepherd, go through some season adversity over in Houston, just being in and out of the lineup. Of course, he's been great in the G League, in my opinion, Reed Shepherd, but I'm still really high on him, given what he can achieve, what he did achieve in Kentucky, leading the NCAA in 3-point field goal percentage at 52%. I still think he's a great shooter, but right now for his rookie season, he only averaged 4 points, 1 rebound, and 1 assist. There was some underrated talent that really took over this year, like Jalen Wells. Many people were doubting Zach Edey, Shaquille O'Neal coming out of Purdue, thinking he was a stick in the mud, thinking he wasn't going to be able to succeed at the NBA level, given his frame. And he's more of a traditional center that you don't see like that nowadays, prioritizing the drop step and post moves and things of that nature. I think he's found a home over in Memphis, in my opinion, averaging 9 points and 8 rebounds a game in his rookie year. He's 22 years old, so I think he'll catch on pretty quick, especially having his physicality at 7'4". But of course, moving to the dudes who have really stolen the show, in my opinion, that's our guy, Zachary Risache, of course. Over the last 5 games, he has averaged 18.2 points per game. He's looked great, in my opinion, really catching really hitting his stride, and especially with the catch and shoot threes, he's really fallen in love with his role this year. That was really all he's supposed to do, really, was sit in the corner, catch and shoot threes, really learn the plays that we're running this year in the Hawk system and play good defense. He's done all 3 of those things, even sometimes where he's taken initiative to really shot create for himself, take the ball on the fast break. He's the youngest Hawk to ever have multiple 30-point games. I'm pretty sure he's the only rookie this season to have multiple 30-point games, and it's pretty remarkable. When he does put up 30 points, it's like crazy efficiency, like 11 of 14, 9 of 15. Even when he had 22 points the other night, he shot like 9 of 17. So anytime he's playing good like that, he shoots great. Like he's shooting over like 50%. And it's really remarkable to see a 19-year-old, not even 20 years old, to be able to adjust this quickly mid-season, catch on, and really come into his own. He did, like I did say, he did what he was supposed to this year, coming in and averaging 12 points a game, again, at 19 in the NBA. So if he's averaging 12 right now, I can only imagine next year he'll probably jump to maybe 15 points per game, 16, 17 points per game. And then that third season, he can come back and average like 18, 19, 20 points per game. And that's just him at 21 years old. At this point, all he has to do is just add the muscle because he has the intangibles and the athleticism. Absolutely. And Jalen Wells, of course, the rookie coming out of Washington State, I think he's played good as well, averaging 11 points and 3 rebounds as well for the Memphis Grizzlies. I think just the fact that not many people, I mean, some people were high on him, but not many people were, of course, coming out of Washington State. And he's really played great, in my opinion. I do think he has a bright future, the Sacramento, California native. He was drafted in the second round. So to come out here and already be a double-digit point per game scorer on a contender like the Grizzlies definitely show that he has a bright future. And according to FanDuel right now, the number one guy is Stephon Castle of the San Antonio Spurs. I think he's played good as well. The former NCAA champion. Of course, we just saw UConn get eliminated pretty early. That was pretty crazy to see that. You know, Dan Hurley was not happy about that, of course. And Stephon's averaging 14 points, 3 rebounds, and 4 assists. He just had, or he currently does have 22 points, 6 assists with 12 rebounds versus Cleveland Cavaliers. Of course, they lost that game just now to the Cavs, but he's showing his potential. Definitely almost bringing home a triple-double literally tonight as we record this. And he's looked great all season. The Covington, Georgia native, if I must say. He's looked good, honestly, like really exceeding expectation, even as the 4th overall pick. If that's a redraft, you know, he could go even higher. You know, you never know. But his last few games, he's had 19 points and 4 assists versus the Pistons. Toronto, he had 15, 1 and 5 versus the literally Philly. He had 17 points and 14 assists. So he's definitely looking good. He's definitely showing his potential. He's showing that they have a future something behind De'Aaron Fox. Absolutely. I'm not gonna go out on a limb and say maybe a future star. He's definitely looking like it for sure. I wouldn't be surprised if he turned into one as a 6'7" point guard for sure. But Stephon Castle's also played great. And last but not least, got to give credit to Alex Sarr. A lot of people were ragging on him after his performance in the Summer League, and he's played really, really good the last few games. He currently averages 13 points and 7 rebounds a game. Many people thought the rebounding would take a while to come on, but he's actually looking good, averaging already 7. Reminder that he is naturally a power forward rather than a center. That was one of the main reasons why he didn't want to come to the Atlanta Hawks, mainly because he wanted to stick to the natural position of the power forward versus the center spot. And I think he's already looking good. I do think he'll be a future star as well. I think he's determined to become that. These French prospects are showing it, you know, like when Wembanyama came out last year, number 1 and number 2 both came out of France with Zachary and Alex, and they're both playing good for their respective franchises. Of course, as I literally say all of this, the Pacers just beat the Wizards 162 to 109. So he didn't have that good of a night team-wise, but individually, he had 22 points and 7 rebounds a game just tonight alone. So he's definitely playing his role as the future centerpiece, in my opinion, of the Washington Wizards. We'll see what happens this draft class, of course, but he's definitely one of their future centerpieces for sure. So after listing out all the rookies and how they've been playing, all like the substantial rookies, of course, who would you pick to win Rookie of the Year, or who do you think could be like the main guys for Rookie of the Year, like that, like the top 2 votes for Rookie of the Year, if you had to choose right now?
Yeah, of course, I'm going to, go with our guy, Zachary Richardson. To your point, it is going to be a tight race between him and Stephon Castle. Now, to Castle's standpoint, or on his perspective, I think that the award could go to Castle due to the simple fact that he's averaging more points and assists right now. But for Ricochet, he's more efficient. So he is currently averaging a little over 12 points per game, averaging almost 4 rebounds and 1 assist. But he's shooting on 44, 34, and 72 shooting splits. So 44% from the field, 4% from 3, and 72% from free throw line. So he's shown to be the more efficient player, and he's playing for the better team out of between him, Stephon Castle, and Alex Sarr. So I really think that's what it's gonna come down to is who's been the more efficient player. But of course, I guess people are going to look at from a stat standpoint in terms of okay, who's averaging the more points and this, that, and third. But I think for Zach, he definitely had a slow start this year because of the fact that he was starting off shooting around 27% from three, but now he's up to 34. So he had a little bit of a rough start, and now he's getting to the point where he's starting to catch the rhythm as we head towards the end of the season. So and you can say the same thing for Stephon Castle. He's had a similar situation because right now, he's shooting 42% from the field, 28% from three, and still same free throw percentage at 72. But like I said, he's averaging more points and more assists. So, but I think that if Zachary, we should say, if he's able to keep up with what he's doing now, keep doing what you're doing, just keep developing his jump shot. And I think really that's what has enabled him to be where he is right now in terms of his development. He had to change his shot up a little bit, where he's now turning into more of a movement shooter.
Mhm.
There's not much dip into his shot. I think he's having the ability or showing the ability to get his feet set before he catches the ball, so it seems like he's working on those mechanics, making sure that his mechanics are set before he catches the ball. So when he gets it, he just goes up and release. But yeah, he's shown a lot of development thus far in his rookie year so far. I never forget the 33 points that he put up against the New York Knicks that we had earlier this year at home. So that was probably his biggest game this year. But yeah, I think there's going to be a tight race between him and Stephon Castle. So we just have to wait and see. But I just think for me, it should come down to is who was the more efficient player throughout the entire season. And if Zach, maintains that, then I think he should get it.
Yeah, man, I agree 100%. Like, I think the efficiency alone can really get him the award, honestly. And like, it's just crazy to me to see like how many people were ragging on Risa Shea in the beginning of the season and stuff like that. And like, really to see him have this, really to see him transcend like this post All-Star break. Like, it's only right. It's kind of ironic because we know that Trae Young, if you all remember during the 2018-2019 NBA season, Trae Young's first half was not the best. I remember in summer league, he had an iffy summer league, and people thought he was a bust and stuff like that. In the whole first half of the season, I actually worked at the arena at the time. That was my first year working there. Trae himself was filling up the seats, but that was the only thing there for Hawks fans to watch. Of course, they weren't that good, and like you saw them getting lottery pick after lottery pick year after year. That was how they got DeAndre Hunter. That was how they got Onyeka Okongwu. And of course, the next year, 2021, we had the 20th pick in the draft. We got the boy Jalen Johnson, of course. Biggest steal. One of the biggest steals of that draft, absolutely. If that was a redraft, he would certainly go top four. 2021 was actually still a pretty good draft, with Cade Cunningham, Scotty Barnes. That was a really, really good draft looking back on it. I do think Jalen Johnson would absolutely be top 5 in that draft. I mean, he went on to become a star at a young age at that. And like the fact he's a point forward, being able to make everyone around him better while also playing good defense from the post to the interior, on the perimeter, and being able to shoot the ball like that. I'm excited for his leap next season as well. And I did want to talk about this. Of course, this isn't a Hawks podcast. I just think with the Hawks in particular being completely objective, they have one of the best young cores in the league right now, given what they have with Dyson Daniels leading the league in steals at 22 years old, with Zachary Sachet playing how he is at 19. With Jalen Johnson, of course, he suffered a season-ending torn labrum in his left shoulder, unfortunately, or it might have been his left shoulder. Unfortunately, he's out for the year, but he was a walking 20, 10, and 5 every single night he was doing it. I remember he had that triple-double versus the Boston Celtics this season just to show how good he was, even with Trae was not here. And I think just having all of this around Trey. It's just gonna pay dividends with this young core, seeing how he makes everyone around him better. Gotta give a shout out to the man Wiley, absolutely tuning in from the road. Most definitely. You guys just saw who he would have picked if he was here, of course. He would have picked Stephon Castle. He's looked good, man. Like I said, that 17 points and 14 assists versus Philly. Of course, Philly isn't the best team right now, of course. Just seeing what they're going through with all the injuries they've suffered. But I do think that Stephon Castle does have a bright future. I do think he will go on to be a star. I think he's going to be that guy next to Wembanyama for a really, really long time. He's only 20 years old, and his birthday's in November. So he started out 19 this year, and he's already looking this good. Like I said, he just had 22.7 assists and 12 tonight versus the 1 seed in the East at that. So he's playing like this against great competition game after game, and he's looking good, man. I am really happy for him. This guy went to Newton High School, so it's cool to see that Georgia can really produce this world-class talent. Of course, we saw the Thompson twins at Overtime Elite not too long ago, and they themselves also went number 4, number 5 in the draft, similar to Castle, who went number 4 in his draft. And just assessing his ceiling, like I said, I do think he will be a star. He's already averaging 14 points and 4 assists in his first year. It's like Garrett said, it's really the efficiency. He's shooting 42, or really if you round up, 43% from the field this year. It's definitely not that good. He's shooting 72% from the free throw and 28% from the 3-point line. So they knew when they drafted him, that was the biggest thing he had to work on coming out of UConn was the jump shot. But he's a worker, and most importantly, he's a winner, having that championship pedigree and coming to a championship filled franchise like the Spurs. It's only right. And I think that Brian Wright, the GM, of course, that would have been the X factor acquisition for their core in the future, knowing that a center like Wembanyama needs that running mate, needs a point guard like Stephon Castle, seeing how he can play, make, and score and defend at any moment, and he can rebound. The final form of Stephon Castle is like a 6'7", like a Jason Kidd, the way he's gonna be able to play good on the perimeter, be able to play make like that. Of course, it took Jason a little bit to get a jump shot like that, similar to Stephon Castle's journey. So I'm really happy for Stephon Castle to really have success. Though this is a Hawks podcast, of course. Really, really happy for the former UConn Husky. Really to see him take this leap like this right into the league his first year. He said it at the draft, like whatever team gets him, he's getting a winner. And I'm going to show that. And I'm really happy for him, man. I think the sky's the limit for him. Same with Risa Shea. I do think that we could have some all-stars out of this draft. I do think that if I had to pick right now, I think Sar, Castle, and Risa Shea would be the top. Like if you were to fast forward to 2030, those are the 3 dudes from this draft that would have made the all-star game. And Reed Shepard as well. I'm still really, really high on Reed Shepard, especially in that Houston core. Knowing he can play make for all those guys. It's just he's playing behind some guards right now, like Fred VanVleet and all that. And I'm still really, really high on Reed Shepard, of course. And yeah, man, like I said, this draft class, it was pretty good. We know the 2025 draft class is definitely way better than this one was, with Cooper Flag coming out, VJ Edgecombe. March Madness is upon us, so we're going to get to see how they would perform in a playoff setting, and I'm really excited about that. We saw that Cooper Flag was named the National Freshman Player of the Year. So, hey, he's living up to the hype, obviously. He will probably more than likely be the number 1 overall pick come this summer. It really all just depends what team is able to get that. Now, if you look at every mock draft, from NBA mock draft, NBA draft room, Tankathon, NBA draft.net, of course, Draft Express. Shout out to Jonathan Cavani, of course. Most of them do have the Wizards getting the first pick or the Pelicans. I've seen the Pelicans a lot, but most teams, most notable drafts do have the Wizards bringing it home. It'd be cool to see the Wizards finally get a brand new superstar. They haven't had a real superstar since the John Wall era. And it'd be cool just to see them finally hit the reset button. Same for the Charlotte Hornets. It'd be really cool to finally see them hit the reset button as well. Toronto is probably going to get a high pick, even though I think they're a better team than what their record indicates, especially having signed Brandon Ingram recently. We'll see how that affects how they'll draft, because obviously people thought they were going to take Ace Bailey, but with the wings that they have, with Scotty Barnes, with Brandon Ingram, of course, Bailey could come in and play the shooting guard. But I am pretty intrigued to see how that Toronto team also stacks up. But of course, ending with this rookie class, I feel like we can go ahead and give them a rating, given how this year is about to be over. Some of these players, we won't even see them in the playoffs because some of their teams aren't making the playoffs. So this rookie class, I liked it a lot. I would have probably given them like an 8, honestly. Like I said, I do think that we'll probably get at least one all-star out of this. At least Sar, Risache, or Castle can all go on to be an all-star, especially for their respective franchise, where they're all three of them are flourishing at the moment in their respective roles. So they're only going to grow more the more usage increases. So I would probably give it about an 8, given the talent from what I saw this year. If you had to give like a rating for this rookie class, like given all the slander they got back in last July, last June, what would you give this rookie class if you had to say from what you saw from them this year?
Yeah, I'll probably give it a solid B, only because of the fact that this, even though that we could see a couple of guys, become an all-star. This is not this. It wasn't a really deep draft as it
Mhm.
has been over the past few years. Like this is not nowhere near as deep of a draft like we saw in 2018 with Luca, Trey Young, and
Mhm.
SGA. All
Yeah.
those guys, or the draft after that with Darius Garland, Zion Williamson, DeAndre
Simpson.
Hunter, or
Yeah.
nothing like that. So this is one of the weakest drafts we've seen. Um, it's not an indictment to the players or anything like that. It's just from a talent standpoint, it just wasn't that deep. But that's why I say that I think that I would say that these guys would definitely be tremendous role players for sure. So guys that you would surround with the likes of Wemby and San Antonio with Castle, or Trey with Ricochet, or Jordan Poole with Alex Sarr, and all those guys. So, but these
Mhm.
are these are definitely guys that could be high role players for their respective teams. But yeah, I would give it a solid B for this draft class.
Okay. No, I mean, hey, man, like, hey, I can see why you say that. You feel me? Like I said, they didn't have the most noteworthy names. Most of the biggest draft prospects were international prospects, so not many people have
Yep.
time to watch EuroLeague basketball like that, released it at home. It's over in Europe, so obviously we live in America. Given the time differences, it'd be pretty hard to watch them anyway. Like Zachary Risache was an all-star over in the French league. I'm pretty sure he won a championship in the last the lead national dead basket. I always messing up when I try to say the French league and stuff. But over in the LNB, he looked good. Even at 18 years old, he was shooting 40% from three. Of course, he only averaged 11 points per game, similar to how he does now. But 40% from three, no matter where you play, is 40% from three. And we're going to see that happen for the Hawks, how we're seeing it now, absolutely. But moving on to our last topic of the night, of course, last but not least, it's actually the beefiest, the juiciest topic of the evening, in my opinion. So on March 6th, the Los Angeles Lakers did face off versus the New York Knicks. Now, obviously, one of the biggest Knicks fans in all of sports is world renowned sports journalist Stephen A. Smith. Obviously, the First Take host is extremely popular these days. He just signed $100 million 5-year extension with the Entertainment Sports Network (ESPN). To be able to get that much from ESPN, man, you got to be special talent. I don't care who you are for them to think you're that valuable to ESPN. Something that it sells itself. People want to wake up. They're like, there's some people like the only news they absorb is sports news. They don't even watch the regular news like Fox 5 and CNN and stuff like that. So to see him get that much money from ESPN definitely shows how accomplished and how successful he is, of course. But given his track record and throughout his career, Stephen A. Smith has never shied away from controversy. Well, not controversy, really going at it with a player. It doesn't matter what sport, NFL, MLB, NBA, even UFC. He will definitely go at whoever he disagrees or thinks it's not performing at the moment. So for Stephen A. Smith, like I mentioned, the Lakers did play the Knicks, and one of the biggest things of that game didn't happen on the court. It happened on the sideline, of course. LeBron James approached Stephen A. Smith for some comments he said during a first take segment that took place on January 29th, 2025, when he mentioned that Bronny James was just not ready to transcend to the NBA. Coming out of USC, a lot of people thought he wasn't ready. Obviously, everyone know he collapsed in a practice at one point due to his heart health, his heart issues. It got to a point where they had to put like a tracking device on Bronny to monitor his heartbeat at all times because the situation got that detrimental to his health. But of course, we see how the story played out. He did go on to get drafted with the 55th pick in the second round by the Los Angeles Lakers. And he's playing good in the G League. He's currently averaging like 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists for the South Bay Lakers over in El Segundo, California. So he's playing really, really good as of right now. He's definitely exceeded all expectations that people put on him. Because I could say people doubting him, but he also had a lot of supporters too. On opening night, the whole FaZe Clan, if you all play Call of Duty and stuff like that, super popular video game ensemble. They're all millionaires of Call of Duty, so to let you know how popular they are. They were all there in Bronny James jerseys. I actually published an article recently that Bronny, as a rookie, sold 500,000 jerseys, generating $50 million in revenue as a rookie, which is extremely substantial, seeing how all the noise he's making on and off the court this year. But of course, his father felt the need to defend him when he approached Stephen A. Smith, and Stephen A. Smith did not like that, not one bit. Now, of course, it was a viral moment. It was everywhere. All over Twitter that night. The next morning, they brought ESP and they brought Stephen A. in the back during the morning meeting during first take, and they said you have to address it. He said he didn't want to, of course, but he said you have to address it. It's world class news. It's involving you. It's sports in general. You cover sports, so he definitely had to address it. Absolutely, which he did. Just saying that he thought everything he said about Bronny was correct. Everything he said was right. He later doubled down on his on the Stephen A. Smith show, his personal YouTube channel, really trying to see where he went wrong. He admitted that it did bother him. He wanted to apologize publicly to LeBron if he did feel like he overstepped a boundary covering the NBA. Of course, you're liable to talk about these dudes' professions they do for a living. It's how they feed their families. It's their passion, and Stephen A. did apologize if he felt like something hurt his feelings, but he did say that he felt the most bad because everything he said was correct. So, of course, that was the first part of the saga. The latest development was that LeBron James were on the Pat McAfee show. Now, Pat McAfee lives in Indianapolis. Of course, he used to play for the Colts, the former NFL kicker. And he was in Indianapolis on his podcast. Well, not podcast, really. It's a TV show, the Pat McAfee show. One of the most popular shows in sports at the moment, absolutely, given his charismatic personality. So much so, even LeBron James felt it was worthy enough of his time, of course. The Lakers had just played the Pacers. He had just hit a game winner the night before, and he thought, hey, why not roll over to Pat McAfee's show? And yeah, he had to sit down with him. And obviously, Pat McAfee working on ESPN. Just LeBron was, just going over like the recent events in his life and stuff like that. And Stephen A. did get brought up, and he just said, oh man, that guy couldn't wait to talk about our viral moment. Like, he was at home in his tidy whities with ice cream in front of the TV, just so excited to sit there and like talk about what I said to him and stuff like that. And that made Stephen A. Smith extremely upset. I can only imagine how he felt when he said that about him on national television, knowing Stephen A. Smith's personality, of course. And Stephen A. Smith replied to him later on his YouTube channel later that night, calling LeBron a liar. He said a lot. He really just said that everything that LeBron said wasn't like wasn't lie, that he never said anything to hurt Bronny's feelings or anything like that. He even came out on a First Take show a couple of days ago and said he might have been wrong about Bronny, seeing how Bronny just had his career high 17 points and 5 assists versus the Bucks a few games ago. So he even came out and said that. But the Pat McAfee stuff sent Stephen A over the edge. Again, he went on his YouTube show, just firing back at LeBron, calling him a liar, saying he's two-faced, saying that the only reason he probably feels this way is because he's came out publicly and said over and over and over that he thinks Michael Jordan is the greatest NBA player of all time, and he considers Michael Jordan to be the second greatest player. Even Rich Paul, because of course Stephen A brought it up during his YouTube segment, he said that he kind of got word that LeBron felt slighted by that after Rich Paul caught him in person and told him in person that he found it as he thought it was insulting to refer to him as the second greatest player of all time. Now, of course, that pissed Stephen A off. He did not like that. Seeing how Stephen A has to be extremely critical. And Stephen A is about 57 years old now, so he has seen Michael Jordan's entire career and LeBron James' entire career, and he still feels that Michael Jordan, of course, is the greatest of all time. Stephen A. Smith has no ties to Chicago. He's from New York. He worked for the Philadelphia Inquirer, covering the Philadelphia 76ers and Allen Iverson. That's really how he rose to prominence. So he just really loves Michael Jordan and everything he accomplished on the court, similar to Skip Bayless, of course. And really the whole thing was just about them arguing, just really firing back at each other and who the fans decide they want to believe in all of this. Stephen A. Smith also did say he would have swung on LeBron. He said he would have punched him in the face if he would have felt like his life was in danger or if LeBron was about to put his hands on him. And he said he wasn't scared of him in the slightest. And he said, yeah, I probably would have got my A-word kick because we definitely would have been tussling and fighting right there in front of everyone. Of course, LeBron is 6'8" and about 250 pounds. So Stephen A. Smith definitely would have been a size disadvantage there. But the most recent development, of course, Stephen A. Smith went on First Take again this morning and fired back at LeBron because LeBron also said some comments about Brian Windhorst as well, saying that Brian Windhorst claimed that LeBron and him are best friends and all that, and then LeBron called Brian Windhorst weird, and things of that nature. And that really, really pissed Stephen A off to see him come after his colleague like that, because he felt like at this point LeBron's just coming after the entire NBA media, just for critiquing players, which is of course the main job of the NBA media. And yeah, Stephen A. Smith went on First Take again. He gave every stat line to show why Michael Jordan is the greatest player of all time. And he only said that because he feels like that's the main reason why LeBron doesn't like him like that. He said it wasn't even about Bronny. He said it's not about Bronny at all, because he couldn't have said anything that bad to make him upset about his son. He said it was an ego thing when it came to LeBron, in that he just wanted to, because LeBron went on Pat McAfee and said it's about defending my household and defending the player. And Stephen A. Smith said that was a lie and that it was just about defending himself and his image and things of that nature. And he said, but what he said about Brian Windhorst was leakage about what the whole mess, what the NBA fans don't get to see, that side of LeBron, how he'll talk trash on people, how he can be a bully sometimes, so he can be kind of rude at moments. We did see that video of when LeBron was out in Paris when that fan tried to run up to him and he was dancing and he said, "Don't do that," and he went back to dancing as he walked into the hotel. So LeBron definitely does have that side to him. For those of you who never met him in person, I've never met him in person. I don't know if Garrett's ever met him in person, but this is one of the biggest stories in basketball right now. It involves one of the greatest of all time, one of the most popular players in the absolute most popular basketball journalist at the moment, and Stephen A. Smith. Regardless of what everyone says, I don't see other journalists making $100 million from ESPN. So I just laid out the whole story. Absolutely. I appreciate you for giving me the time to do that. And I just wanted your opinion on it. Like, whose side do you choose? Who do you think is in the wrong? Do you think that Stephen A should have just minded his business about Brown? He shouldn't have said, because what pissed LeBron off was when Stephen A said, "I'm begging you as a father to stop this. Like, why are you putting your son in position where we're going to have to talk about him, say he's bad, say he's, I'm not going to say any negative words about Bronny James, of course. And he was just saying that, like, why would you put your son in position for us to do this and have to talk about him? The last thing I will say is that obviously the sentiment was shared. Jaylen Brown was caught on the bench chilling with Kaiser Gondres, his girlfriend, and Angel Reese of the Chicago Sky, WNBA star, of course. That he just those 2 seconds, the camera caught him saying, "I don't think Bronny is a pro," and that made headlines everywhere the next day. We also saw later this year, or well, later that year, earlier this year, that they were at the All-Star game together, and LeBron, and it really happened in the video. It wasn't like some TMZ gossip or anything like that. You see LeBron dap up every single player in the locker room, including Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown's superstar teammate, except for Jaylen Brown, So obviously, of course, like he should, he is really overprotective over his child, as he should be. LeBron not having a father himself, he definitely feels like he should be there in all facets for his children, help them succeed in any way, shape, or form, even helping them get to the NBA at this point, as he should have. But yeah, I just wanted to ask you, whose side were you picking in this, seeing how like LeBron has shot random strays at Brian Windhorst, who I don't think ever said that. Multiple journalists came out and said Brian Windhorst never claimed to be LeBron's best friend. Or do you take LeBron's side, where Stephen A has obviously had a track record of being hated by athletes? A lot of basketball players actually don't like Stephen A. If you actually go around, it's a lot of them that don't like him, unfortunately. So how did you feel about the situation, Garrett?
Well, I mean, when you just take the whole situation into account, when you hear what LeBron says and what Stephen A says, it's kind of where you can't really tell if who's really telling the truth and who's not, because to Stephen A's point that he's just mad that he doesn't have LeBron as number one. He has MJ as number one. We don't know that to be very true. I don't know if that is the actual case. I think that just comes to having a sense of discernment from Stephen A's standpoint of just reading between the lines. Now, I will say for on Stephen A's behalf, I don't think he's never said anything ugly about Brian James. I don't think he's never said anything, or I should say, he never insinuated anything of trying to put Brian James in a bad light. Because when you add context to it, or when you dissect it a little bit, uh, he felt that Brian James should start his rookie year, or play his rookie year in the G League, because him, and I'm pretty sure other people may feel the same way, that he's not a pro athlete at this time. And I guess you can see it that way due to his situation in college, where he unfortunately had suffered a critical heart condition that kept him out for a long period of time, and he wasn't able to really perform at a high level in college. It was more like an one and done season for him. So, and even for me, I felt like that he should have stayed in college a little bit longer, just for him to gain that experience before entering the draft portal. And of course, him saying that, well, the only reason why Bronny is in the NBA because of his dad, or because of his dad's influence in the NBA, and of course his voice in the NBA. But of course, to your point, that Bronny, it was a exactly a week from today where he scored a career high 17 points, along with 5 assists, 3 rebounds, and 1 block against. It was in a loss against the Milwaukee Bucks. And also this past Tuesday, in the G League, he dropped a career high in the G League in 39 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 steals, and 1 block against the Santa Cruz Warriors with the South Bay Lakers in the G League. And even Stephen A admitted, like, hey, I may have been wrong about this kid. So that's why I say I don't think that's really insinuating that he was trying to put Brian James in a bad light, because one thing that he did mention is a fact, is that he's getting paid, and to your point, he just signed a big time extension with ESPN. He's being paid to criticize. Now that doesn't mean to just say anything um terrible or anything bad towards anybody. Is just the fact of the matter is that okay, if this player is doing great, then he's going to give you props, and if that player is not, then he's going to criticize you. That's just part of the game. And even LeBron said that. That's just how, that's what comes along with it, being a pro athlete. But I do understand from LeBron's standpoint as far as protecting his son, because yes, they are teammates, but that's still his son, and and it's vice versa for Brian, that's his father. So I understand for LeBron from an emotional standpoint, you're just trying to protect your family. So I understand where he was coming from, but I'm just saying for me, I don't think Stephen A said anything towards Bronny that should have led to this point, honestly. I think, excuse me, if it was for me, I think this would have been hashed out much sooner if him and LeBron was able to either meet up for lunch or set up a phone call to really hash it out. I don't think it should have taken this far. But like I said, based on the information that has surfaced, I don't think Stephen A. has said anything to cause this situation to happen. But that's why I say before, because Stephen A. mentioned it, that when LeBron approached him, he didn't approach him as a basketball player. He approached him as a father, as a parent. So I do understand that. But I think LeBron should have known, or at least given himself more time to understand that, when you're in the pros, this what comes along with it. So when people, or right when I should say the media, are, having their takes or their perspectives about Bronny, I mean, that's just part of the game. You can't save him from every situation. So, but like I said, I mean, this is, and if I'm not mistaken, I mean, this is the first father and son teammates, in the history of the NBA. If I'm not mistaken, so it's a rare thing to see. But but no, I think Bronny, I think that he's showing a lot of life. Well, like I said, the 39 points in the G League game this past Tuesday was big, and his career high 17 points was big too,
Mhm.
against the Bucks despite the loss. But no, I think that LeBron is, I think he's doing his job as a parent. He's looking out for his son, so you can't say that he's in the midst of, or I should say, he's in the wrong for doing that. But I'm just saying that there's just, a middle ground you have to come to. And I think that's something you just have to understand. So, but, I'll say this, even if we take Stephen A. Smith's word of saying, hey, LeBron is in his feelings because Stephen A doesn't have him listed as number one. I have LeBron at number two as well. And even though I didn't grow up watching Michael Jordan, I wasn't even, you know, even thought of, when he was taking lead by storm. But like I said, there's just certain things that other people value in other guys. I mean, there's people out there that doesn't even have LeBron or Michael Jordan as number one.
Mhm.
That's just how it is. People see the game did differently. Some people have Kobe, some people have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or
Mhm.
Magic Johnson or Larry Bird. So I'm just saying that I think for LeBron, if that was truly the case, that is just the fact that he doesn't, because LeBron's been heavily criticized for a lot of things as a basketball player throughout his entire career, and I'm not sure if all that is just catching up to him. But for me, I mean, it's like this right here. You have a lot of fans. You have a big following. You have a lot of people that believe that you are truly the best player of all time, and I would think that for me, and even if and we don't even know for sure. We don't know when you look at when you take the entire world into consideration, or basketball fans
Mhm.
altogether. We don't know if more people are fans of Michael Jordan than LeBron, or I should say, more fans have MJ as number one versus LeBron. Whatever that is, I think LeBron. The only thing that should matter is that if LeBron feels like he's the best player in the history of basketball, then that's all that matters. Don't let someone else's opinion get to you and cause you to start situations like this, because even though that some people think it's entertainment when you talk about, oh, if he would have came up to me, I would have swung on them this and the third. I mean, yeah, but yeah, I just think that at the end of the day, don't let anyone's opinion push you to this right here. But that's only if that is the case. So like I said, LeBron is definitely a top two player in the history of basketball, no doubt about it. Regardless of that, I think LeBron should only care about how he feels as a player, and that's why I say if he feels like he's the best player of all time, then that's all that matters. And don't get me wrong, he has a very very solid case as to why, and he has the
1,000.
numbers to back it up. So it's definitely close, but yeah, but like I said, I don't hold LeBron against him as far as trying to look after for his son and protecting his child. So no, I don't look at him as in a bad light or anything like that. So, but like I said, I think Stephen A. I think he was just doing his job as a professional, and he even admitted, like I said before, that he thinks that Bronny is doing a great job. He may have been wrong about him, and he gave him his props. So I think that's the least that he could have done. So, like I said, I just hope that they end this soon. I hope this doesn't prolong into the summer or even after that. Hopefully that the beef, drops eventually, and hopefully that they'll end this on a peaceful note. I hope they will be able to hash it out if they can. But yeah, I just think that's where it should be going forward.
Yeah, man, it was really, really well put by you. Real positive route put by Garrett, of course. Always the better route to take, the positive one rather than the negative. Want to see these two black men succeed on the world stage, not let ESPN and all these other higher ups eat off them feuding on national television. You want to see them make amends and be good role models for the kids that want to follow their footsteps in their respective crafts. From athletes to journalists. Of course, that's how it should be. And yeah, man, I guess just to give my two cents on before we close the show. I want to thank y'all again for joining us. Really appreciate y'all as always. Yeah, so for me, I'm a journalist by trade. I went to school for that. Like I've dedicated my life to it at this point. Like, unless of course I could change careers at any point if I were to decide to. But like I'm really passionate about this and I definitely want to see how far I can take it for sure. So that being said, seeing a man sign a contract for $100 million, like to talk about basketball, and of course it's different. It's such a high, it's not just so simplistic. It's different than that. They make him earn that $100 million. Best would leave it. Like I'd be shocked if Stephen A goes to bed like that. He's always up doing so much research every day before a first take, and like he makes being on TV look so easy. He makes it look so easy being able to just not stutter like that. Of course he's made mistakes. Just today he said LeBron didn't go to Kobe's funeral when he did indeed go. He had to go onto his Twitter and quote the ESPN Twitter with that the clip going around to say that he did indeed go. My correction, even at the highest level on ESPN on national television, dudes of his caliber can make mistakes, so it happens, of course it can happen, like, because of course, Stephen A was bringing up how LeBron messed up in the finals back in 2011, and of course, like, you could say, obviously Stephen A, he'll never have a situation like as high pressure as an NBA finals, but like him messing up on ESPN on national television, like with his job security, like, like that shows he makes mistakes too, like how LeBron has made mistakes on the court. Stephen A has certainly made mistakes in his craft. But I only mention his success because obviously he has done something right along the way of his career. He's been on TV for such a long time at this point, coming on there with Skip Bayless. And I think right now people don't understand like how hard it is to like have to be critical and really analyze the sport like that, really be aware of everything, like the metrics, like everything you say has to be logical and make sense. Now, as I say that, a lot of people think Stephen A doesn't make sense sometimes when he's breaking down like the game of basketball and stuff like that. But I only say all that to say this. Like I personally side with Stephen A. Smith in this situation. Like I'm not biased as a journalist, nothing like that. If the players weren't here, I wouldn't have a career. Of course, I could cover news, fashion, entertainment, whatever. But I chose sports. I love covering sports and stuff like that. So I'm always gonna respect the athletes above all else. But I think we got a little bit of an inside look into LeBron James with the situation. Like I think that kind of showed that if he wants to, he definitely has the resources and the power to turn people against you. Like if he I just wouldn't want to be his enemy. I'll say that. Obviously, Stephen A's not worried about that because he has connections that he can get himself without a doubt, and he still has a lot of people that love him in the NBA media space. Absolutely, given the groundwork he has laid over his illustrious career. But I do side with Stephen A in this situation. I do think that LeBron, because sending that shot to Brian Windhorst right there, kind of showed me all I needed to see in terms of if it's like his attitude towards the media already. He doesn't really like any of these guys like that. To be quite honest, like obviously he's gonna come at Stephen A the most because he's the biggest of them all. And he knew by coming at Stephen A, he'd be sending a message. Stephen A even had a good point when he said that after LeBron said that, you see LeBron look off into the camera, because he knew it was going to be a viral moment. Like, of course, LeBron James, like, as being famous as he has been his entire life, people really do not know like the true LeBron James. He knows his image is worth so much. Like he cannot mess it up at all. He's never had a cheating scandal. He's never had anything like that throughout his 22 years in the NBA. You've never seen anything like that from LeBron ever. And like, yo, he's tatted up, sleeves, got his chest done. Braun got his back, all of that. He could be stereotyped and all of that, but like he's defied every single stereotype by achieving success. So I only say that because obviously that's what we know about him on the surface. But I do think from the situation, we definitely got an inside look into LeBron. It's just he has such a massive fan base. People love LeBron so much that they'll always be like F Stephen A. When it comes to LeBron, but I do think we got to look into how LeBron can be as a person. We know he respects other athletes more, which is why he doesn't really go on other shows like that. But he did go on Pat McAfee, someone he does know did play in the NFL, and he likes him, his charisma, all those things. That whole show actually, like, it's a panel of former athletes. So LeBron definitely respects athletes over media members. 100% he does. And I feel like just the situation kind of showed us into like how LeBron can be. Of course, with Stephen A, I feel like we've known Stephen A for years. I think Stephen A works his heart on his sleeve. He is his exact way. People think he's two-faced. He does it on camera. People think like he's fake. He says no, he does it on camera. I think Stephen A is unfiltered and unadulterated, and I think LeBron, who has no choice but to be so filtered and like so like he just people watch every step he takes as LeBron James. So I just think, like, in my opinion, because of course, you yourself, that's why I said you took the positive route. I'm gonna do the same, of course. I just hope they end this feud or whatever you want to call it, of course. But like, I don't know, like do I think LeBron was in the wrong? No, I guess he did want to defend his son. But at the end of the day, like Garrett did say, he is in the NBA now, and he's 20 years old, So by America's laws, he is a grown man, of course, but it's always going to be his baby. So I always feel the need to defend his son, but he has to let his son be his son at the end of the day. And like Garrett also mentioned, obviously it's working, He had 39 points in the G League, So he for sure has the potential. He can go to sleep now, waking up with confidence, knowing that he has the potential to really, and it translated, like he almost had 20 in an NBA game with 5 assists versus the Bucks, So It's one of the biggest stories in basketball, but I think it'll come to an end soon. I just want to give my 2 cents on that, though. I kind of side with Stephen A on this. I think he's been nothing but real. He echoed a lot of sentiments that a lot of other people had. When Bronny got drafted, respect is earned, not given. A lot of people thought Bronny shouldn't have been an All-American coming out of Sierra Canyon. A lot of people thought he shouldn't have gone to USC like that. Even when he got drafted, of course, it was by the team that his dad plays for. It's all so mapped out for him his entire life. LeBron you can only protect him for so long, So now with this, he has no choice but to let his son be his son, and Bronny's playing great. So I'm really happy for him. And yeah, man, we'll just see what happens. But I do think that Stephen A, he was in the right by reporting on the game. He shouldn't have said all the father stuff and begging him as a father, this and that. Because he doesn't know LeBron like that, and he probably felt LeBron probably felt like his fatherly duties were being questioned, and he didn't like that. Absolutely not. Knowing he's probably done everything he could to be a good parent. Not having a good example like that, being a father, of course. And yeah, man, obviously this is just an off the court story. The Lakers getting ready for the playoffs. LeBron's back from a groin strain, so he's just worried about winning at this point. He doesn't really care about all this off the court stuff. Obviously, he is firing back, but I mean, it's all gonna disappear when the playoffs start. Obviously, they got to be around each other. If the Golden State Warriors and the Lakers were to face off in the first round, I'm pretty sure I know the Lakers are the 4th seed, no, the 5th seed at the moment right now. And yeah, the Lakers are the 4th seed. The Grizzlies are the 5th. The Warriors have slipped to the 7th. So they're in the play-in spot now. Last time I checked the standings, they were at the 5th seed. But if the playoffs were to start right now, they would play the Grizzlies. They have beat them in the past. They did have Anthony Davis on that team when they beat that number 2 seeded Grizzlies team. But we'll see how it goes with Luka this time around. But that's it for me on this show. I did really want to discuss that Stephen A. Smith stuff. I thought it was really interesting to see how all that just came out and courtside and stuff. Of course, who else would it be? Stephen A's living a crazy life as a journalist. I will tell you that, to feud with LeBron. I can only imagine how he felt when he saw him walking up to him. He probably thought he was coming up to talk to like a friend or something like that when he came. He came up and when Stephen A just stood up and that was it. And he knew it was gonna be a viral moment, man. He could have did that to any all them years. Skip Bayless was talking about LeBron James. And he saw this man, for real. All them times he could have pulled that on Skip. He never, and Skip would have said it to his face right then and there on the court with no fear. And of course, Stephen A had no fear as well. But I'm just saying, Stephen A would have kept not Stephen A. Skip would have kept the same energy without a doubt in my mind. You feel me? So, that's it for me on the Uncommon Commentators. Unless you got anything else, Garrett, my brother.
Yeah, thank you all for tuning in, and we always appreciate your love and your support. So thank you guys again.
Thank y'all so much. Please don't forget to comment, and subscribe. Gotta give a shout out as well. Shout out to Jay Holloway for stepping in, being the producer. He's the producer of the Best Damn W show, world renowned WNBA show. They go live Thursday nights at 10:30. Nah, I think it's Tuesday at 10:30. Tuesday, 9:30. 9:30. Tuesdays at 9:30. Y'all should definitely go catch them. They're great. They just keep blowing up more and more every show. They're always consistent. They always have great topics, and they're great basketball heads. No fluff or nothing like that. Real takes, real authentic takes that they stand 10 toes down on. Absolutely. Want to give a shout out to Raina Holloway, Miss Holloway, of course. Lovely woman, lovely mother. Shout out to her as well. She's such a nice person. Shout out to everyone that watches as well. And one more shout out to the man Wiley on the 1s and 2s. We love you. Drive safe. We miss you, boy. I absolutely can't wait to see you again next week. And thank y'all again for joining us on the Uncommon Commentator. So have a blessed evening or whenever you catch this, and enjoy some hoops. Enjoy March Madness, Sweet 16, Elite 8, all of that for sure.